There was a bulldozer aimed straight at my stables, and the HOA president, Karen Worthington, stood in front of it like she was commanding a medieval siege. She had on a wide sun hat like it was a crown, waving a laminated permit like a royal decree, screaming over the revving engine, telling the driver to go ahead and flatten my fence. And there I was, barefoot, coffee in hand, watching it unfold like some fever dream. And just as the front loader dropped into gear, ready to crush the fence, something unexpected happened. My neighbor's dog started barking like crazy. Not at the bulldozer, but at the sheriff's cruiser that had just rolled in behind me. The window slid down, and the deputy inside calmly spoke 7 words that turned Karen ghost white. "Those horses belong to the sheriff's department, ma'am." That one sentence unraveled everything. It all started 3 weeks earlier when my buddy Ben, who works for the sheriff's department, asked if I could temporarily board a few of their mounted patrol horses. Their usual stables were under emergency repairs, and he knew I had the land for it. I own 10 acres just outside city limits, zoned agricultural. No HOA. But unfortunately, I live next to one that acts like it governs the entire state. I said yes. It was the least I could do. The horses were calm, well-trained, and honestly better behaved than most people I know. But the very next morning, the trouble arrived in heels. Karen, queen of the HOA, showed up with a tape measure and a smartphone aimed at my property. She started throwing questions at me like darts. "Where's your permit? Do you know how loud hooves are? Who's managing the manure?" I tried ignoring her, but she wasn't the kind to be ignored. She started slipping HOA violation notices under my gate, even though my land wasn't under her jurisdiction. One claimed the color of my stable roof clashed with the neighborhood palette. Another warned of livestock odor encroachment. I laughed at first. Then I stopped laughing when a city code enforcement officer showed up at my driveway. He'd gotten an anonymous tip about illegal livestock. I showed him my zoning paperwork, and more importantly, I showed him the horse IDs. Every one of them was microchipped to the sheriff's department. The officer looked bewildered, said he'd file a report for a false complaint. Karen didn't back down. She doubled down. Flyers started popping up around the neighborhood, claiming my stables were unregulated. She walked around with a bullhorn, yelling about health violations. One of the horses, Marley, got spooked and nearly broke the gate. I called Ben. He told me to stay calm, keep records. Something bigger was brewing. I didn't know what he meant until the bulldozer showed up. It was a Thursday. I just poured my coffee when I heard the diesel rumble. I walked up and saw it. Bulldozer, 2 workers in vests, and Karen in the middle like she was unveiling a statue. The driver said he had an HOA-issued demolition order. I blinked. "This isn't HOA land," I said. He shrugged. "We just go where they tell us." Karen shoved a laminated permit in my face. Told me I had 72 hours to remove the horses, or they'd be removed for me. I warned her, loudly, that the stables weren't mine. They belonged to the sheriff's office. "You touch anything," I said, "you're messing with county property." She laughed in my face. "What's the county gonna do against us?" Then came the cruiser. Deputy Ruiz stepped out, looked at the bulldozer, looked at Karen's permit, and pulled his radio. "We've got an unauthorized demolition attempt," he said. "Property belongs to the sheriff's department." Karen started backpedaling, muttering about visual harmony and community standards. But it was too late. Ruiz told the crew to back up before they got slapped with felony charges. The workers shut off the engine and walked away. Karen screamed this wasn't over, but it kinda was. Or so I thought. Next morning, I opened my mailbox and it exploded with HOA flyers. Final warnings, fake infractions, even a claim that I was stealing underground water. Then animal control showed up, responding to yet another anonymous complaint. The officer, Hill, checked the horses, inspected the feed, scanned the microchips. "They're healthier than most public horses," she said. And then Karen popped up with her phone, yelling like it was a reality show. Officer Hill ignored her and marked the visit as resolved. Karen didn't like that one bit. That night, I dug into the permit Karen had waved around. It had metadata, stuff she clearly didn't think I'd check. It traced back to a public terminal in the HOA office. The email? A fake Outlook address pretending to be me. I sent it to Ruiz. Within the hour, Ben called. "She's committing fraud," he said. "We're prepping charges. Just stay ready." Next morning, I found a wall being built across my west fence. Karen was directing the construction, saying it was for beautifying the neighborhood boundary. It was 3 feet onto my land. I told her as much. She waved her hand. We have an easement agreement, she said. You'll get used to it. Later that evening, 2 officers showed up, badges, radios, even zip ties. They said I was trespassing on HOA-monitored land. I asked for ID. They had none. One flashed a plastic card labeled HOA Patrol Volunteer. When one of them touched my arm, I hit the emergency button on my phone. 10 minutes later, Ben and Ruiz rolled in. Once they figured out these guys were impersonating law enforcement, it was game over. They were cuffed on the spot. Karen showed up mid-meltdown, screaming about lawsuits. Ruiz just said, "Might want to get yourself a criminal defense attorney." The footage went viral. Reddit, TikTok, everywhere. Marley became an internet legend for nudging one of the fake cops during the arrest like a disapproving uncle. But Karen wasn't done. The next morning, she padlocked my own gate, put up a sign that said Private HOA Utility Access, and strung barbed wire across the top. I called Ruiz again. This time, another deputy arrived, looked at the survey map, and shook his head. Tampering with livestock access? That might be criminal mischief, he muttered. Then he saw the sheriff's logos on the horses and said, "Oh boy, she messed with the wrong stable." That night, unmarked SUVs circled my fence. People got out with surveying equipment. I filmed everything. Turns out they were not surveyors. They were Karen's self-invented territory mapping committee, trying to replot the land in HOA records. The county got involved. Charges started stacking. And then, Karen made her biggest mistake yet. She installed a sign declaring my stable future site of Harmony Garden, with glitter and flowers, and a QR code for donations. That was it. I gathered every document, surveys, permits, emails. One HOA charter clause sealed it. No HOA jurisdiction shall extend to adjoining properties not formally annexed through mutual consent and recorded transfer. Game. Set. Match. The hearing was a spectacle. Karen showed up in pink, smug as ever. Her lawyer tried spinning it into a community improvement issue, but the sheriff himself stood up, uninvited, and made it official. Karen had interfered with law enforcement property. The panel ruled in my favor unanimously. The HOA was ordered to tear down the wall, remove the signs, and stop all encroachments or face daily fines. Karen was removed from her position days later. A replacement apologized on behalf of the board, even sent me a card. Weeks passed. The stables got upgraded with a county grant, solar panels, emergency shelter, even floodlighting. Ben joked that Karen's tantrum funded the best renovation in town. And one afternoon, Sheriff Donnelly came by, smiled, and said, "We're making this an auxiliary patrol station. So now, my backyard isn't just a refuge for horses. It's a recognized part of county law enforcement." All because one woman picked the wrong battle and underestimated the power of patience, paperwork, and a horse named Marley. You ever seen someone dig a hole so deep they buried themselves in it? Well, now you have. Would you have handled Karen differently? Or did she get exactly what was coming? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to share this if you believe common sense still matters.